Up next on Way of the Renaissance Man, Reminiscences of Past Intellectual Activism with fellow idea warrior Stewart Margolis.
Welcome to the Way of the Renaissance Man podcast. This is a show about ideas, personal empowerment, and celebrating the rational life. Our goal is to help each other discover the tools needed to better focus our minds, integrate our thoughts with actions, and live the lives we really want. I'm your host, Jim Woods.
When two friends who've known each other for more than 3 decades get together to reminisce about their mutual passion for ideas, literature, career, and living the Renaissance Man ethos, you know you're in for an auditory treat. And that's exactly what you get in this episode of the podcast, as Jim talks with his good friend, writer, filmmaker, and intellectual activist, Stewart Margolis. During this discussion, you'll learn how Jim and Stewart began their adventures in idea advocacy while students at UCLA, and how they've continued to promote those ideas throughout the decades. You'll also learn about Stewart's years living the life of a financier in Bermuda, his various film and screenwriting projects, and his work with the Ayn Rand Institute. If you've ever wanted to eavesdrop on two friends ruminating on their mutual love of reason, passion, and staying in the moment, then this episode was made for you. And now, here's Jim's conversation with Stewart Margolis.
So it's not often that one encounters someone in life that they've known for about, 35 years now, something like that?
Yeah, it's particularly odd since both of us are, late 30s-ish?
Exactly, so we've known each other since the womb.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But I am here today, here at Freedom Fest Conference 2019, with my excellent friend who I've known for 35 years, a true Renaissance man, a filmmaker, an activist, and an all-around beautiful man, Stewart Margolis. Welcome to the Way of the Renaissance Man podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, so tell everyone how we met.
Boy, well, it was back in 1985, I'm pretty sure, at UCLA, and I forget exactly how it came about, but some of us started getting together to form an objectivist club, the first objectivist club at UCLA. And I think the two of us were, with a couple of other people, were really the driving force behind it. And we jumped in and we got, some help from the Ayn Rand Institute, and we started bringing in speakers and handing out pamphlets, and we're out on the tabling and arguing with people, and it was a great time. Actually, it was a lot of fun.
I think you got it right. I don't remember either how we actually first met. I think it was just we kind of just wanted to set something up. But I think we had a mutual friend or something like that was involved in it. But I don't really remember.
I don't either. It might have been through the Institute. I think both of us had contact with the Institute,
it could have been
and
that,
I think they brought us together, now that I think of it.
It was funny because it was right around that time, 84, 85, when I started reading Ayn Rand.
Oh, right.
And, of course, it engulfed my consciousness, and I just thought it was the greatest stuff I've ever read. Yep. And it's still the greatest stuff I've ever read.
Yep.
Although it's funny because I wish sometimes I had that same kind of excitement about reading a book.
Yeah,
I've been in search of that most glorious moment of my life, the whole time. But it just doesn't come.
No. I think it's kind of a once in a lifetime thing.
Exactly. So, I don't recall, but the important thing is we connected.
Yes.
So, and the important thing is you and I worked on these campus clubs, and we brought Objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, to the UCLA, and we had good discussions with people. We put on good speakers and things like that.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of how we started kind of being idea activists in our throughout our career.
Definitely.
And it is funny because here we are, 2019. And we're still doing it.
We're still doing it. Yeah, that's true.
So tell me. Oh, now, of course, there's a lot of it happened to me.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen along that yellow brick road.
That is true for both of us. Yeah.
But but we have similar trajectories, like in what we've done, or not exactly, of course.
No,
but
you've been much more successful than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. You're quite the talented guy.
Oh, thank you.
But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about your side business, if you will, which is not really a side business. But so after when you were in school at UCLA with me, you were getting your MFA in theater arts and screenwriting, or was it playwriting?
It was playwriting in particular, although I also studied screenwriting. But yeah, that's right. It was grad school.
Right. And so you had gone undergrad UCLA in English literature.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So I never
good memory.
I remember the important people. So, and I was getting my undergraduate degree in philosophy at UCLA.
I remember. Yeah.
So it was one of those things where we both love books.
Yeah, we both went for real practical degrees.
Yes, we both love books. We both went for practical degrees. And then we found out later that we both are really into cats, so that's another commonality.
Absolutely.
So in addition to our kind of love for all things literature and cats, so after you graduated from UCLA, which is when, like 89, I think, was
87 was when I finished grad school.
Okay, yeah, I finished undergrad in 88.
Right.
So I know you decided, you had kind of like almost like unexpectedly landed in like a job which amounts to being in finance, but not directly.
That was a few years after that.
Okay.
Yeah, immediately I actually worked for a talent agent for a while, and also doing my screenwriting. And then I did also start working in the mailroom at the OMRON Institute for a little while. But then, yes, I got a job at an investment company. I don't know that I should really talk about which one, but it was in Bermuda. Right. And it was quite a sort of left turn in my life, but it was great. I learned, I didn't know anything really about the investment world. I was hired as the executive assistant to the CEO of the company, but I had to learn. I studied, and I actually took I forget what it's called, the Series 3 exam or something like that.
It was a commodities license.
It was commodities.
Yeah, that's a Series 3.
Yeah, exactly. Series 3. Now, of course, all these years later, I remember nothing. But at the time,
that's a skill that's fleeting. You have to keep up.
You have to keep up, and I didn't. But yeah, it was 4 years of my life I spent in Bermuda, which there are worse places to be. It was it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I remember I remember hearing through the grapevine that you were living the life of a high financier in Bermuda, and I was like, what? I thought he was going to make the next big movie, But it's funny how that happens. But you ended up, after that stint in Bermuda, you ended up coming back to America, and you ended up being a filmmaker.
Yeah, well, part of the reason I took the job is frustration with where things were or really were not going. I initially out of school, I had my very first screenplay optioned. It was very exciting. I got some money. We had an actress attached, Ricky Lake, who it was kind of a big deal because she had done.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Now that you mentioned that, I remember that was a big deal.
Exactly. And I was very excited. And I got an agent, and I thought, okay, this is it. It's happening. And then they renewed the option once, but then when it came around to renew it again, the financing wasn't really lining up, and it just all fell apart, which I learned later happens in like 99 out of 100 cases.
I was going to say that wasn't a unique circumstance.
No, that was incredibly common. Yeah. But of course, I didn't know that, and I was devastated, and so I really was a little discouraged. So I needed the break that being in the investment world provided to me. And for that period, I didn't really do much writing. I let things kind of mull over. But a screenplay that I'd started before the job, as soon as I finished, that 4 years, I was mulling it over. I finally knew how to finish it. I finished it, and I sold it like within a few months of getting back. It was amazing because
you'd been out of the game.
I'd been out of the game for 4 years, and I really didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get my, I didn't have an agent or anything. It was kind of a weird, fluky thing that a director that I had worked with, the guy who had optioned that screenplay, had a connection in Germany. He's Austrian, and we sold the script to a German equivalent of HBO. It's the big cable company in Germany, and so they flew me over there and had me do rewrites and got a free trip to Europe and got paid and now I was a legit screenwriter. But that experience was great. But they promised me up and down that they wouldn't change a word. They would just be translated to German. But it was going to be my screenplay, my story.
And they always say that, don't they?
Yeah. But apparently, I didn't get it in the contract because when I got a copy of the movie, which was beautiful. I mean, the director, it was gorgeous. But in the middle of my movie, which I can follow along because I wrote it, even though it's in German and I don't speak German. But in the middle, there's this weird dream sequence. All of a sudden, my lead actress is in like a leather bustier, and she's like whipping the lead actor, and I'm like, "What the hell is happening?"
There wasn't any S&M play in that video.
No, exactly.
Original work by Stewart Margolis.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure I would remember if I had written that. And I found out years later that it was the whole dream sequence was a comment on something that was happening in the political world in Germany. It made perfect sense, I guess, to a German audience. No sense at all to anyone else. But anyway, it made me realize, as a writer, I have no control. And so at that point, I actually went back to UCLA and started taking film directing courses. And so from that point on, I've mostly been a writer and director, not just a writer, because as a director, I can control it.
You wanted more control with your vision, be able to
exactly.
No, that's totally understandable. I mean, it's like a lot of actors I know in LA, once they get a taste of the kind of a little bit of working success, and they say, hey, well, these, I wouldn't say these words like these, I could do better than that. So then they start becoming, hey, I think I can do it better. Now, a lot of them think they can do it. A lot of people think they can write, but they're not willing to sit down on that chair and bleed,
But some of them can. The last movie that I did, my most recent one, the lead actress, very talented actress, but had some of those frustrations, and so she became a writer, and she is killing it. Her last script was just bought by Warner Brothers, and is going to be like a big studio film. So she's, after being at it for 2 years, she's doing better than I am. So good for her. She's very talented, obviously. But some writers actually can. I mean, some actors can actually write.
Well, it would make sense that someone who has an artistic kind of mindset would be able to do all of the different facets of art.
I think it does.
Yeah, I mean, it logically it makes sense. Now, you may be a really better actor than you are a writer. You might be a better writer than you are a director. You might be a better director than you are an actor.
Right.
So you were telling me earlier.
Terrible actor.
Yeah. There you go. So, I mean, but because it's different skills.
Yeah.
But the vision, I think, the artistic kind of vision is, and a passion for it too. And one of the big things that we talk about on this show is kind of knowing and finding our passion for things in life.
Yeah.
And not in a kind of ethereal way, but in a way that motivates you toward achieving your values.
Yeah.
And motivates you for it. So did you always know you wanted to be an artist? Did you always know that you wanted to do that?
I mean, not from birth, but pretty early on, I knew that I wanted to be a writer. And the hesitation was always, well, can I make a living? I mean, I'm from a Jewish family, so always the grandparents, you got to make a nice living. And, my family is doctors. My dad's a doctor, my grandfather's a doctor. So for a long time, they just assumed, without even asking, that I was going to be a doctor.
No, another doctor in the family.
Yeah, of course, you're going to be you're a bright kid. Of course you're going to be a doctor.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I'm going to be a writer. And they're like, how are you going to support yourself? And I definitely had that trepidation. I've been very lucky. I mean, I have made some money as a writer, but not enough to live on. But I'm very lucky to have a day job, which is also a passion. I work now at the OMRON Institute in the development department, and most of my career, other than the investment job, I've worked at the OMRON Institute in various positions, and so it's the activism you're talking about. I'm able to do that to support myself, and I don't make a fortune, but I'm able to keep a roof over my head, and then I'm able to also. They're very flexible. They let me have time off when I need to go make a a and so I'm able to pursue that.
That's a good thing to have. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Well, I mean, So here's the other key kind of principle that I like to talk about. You have the passion for your work, but you also have channeled that passion into some productive areas that help achieve your kind of philosophic objectives as well.
Right.
And your work at the Institute. Now, full disclosure, I used to work at the Institute, of course, too. But I used to intern at the Institute.
Yeah, that was a few years back.
That was a few years back, yeah. No, not that well. Yeah, okay, it was a few years back. No, but that was, mid 80s.
Right.
And and it was good. That was when they allowed you to have paid internships.
Right.
You could actually get money for an internship there, and it was fun because we were around ideas. We were around doing things that we promoted that mattered to us.
Yeah.
We were like philosophic activists.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of idea behind it. But of course, it's hard to like stay there. I mean, I graduated school, then I did a military stint, and I came back, and I wanted to kind of incorporate the ideas in my life, like in a professional way.
Yeah.
And it was funny because you and I both have that idea about being a writer too. I also wanted to be a writer.
Right. And you are.
And I am. Yes. And we both made it happen.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know exactly how I wanted to do it. I knew I didn't. I wanted to write fiction, but I didn't want to write screenplays. I didn't think I had a penchant for that. I wanted to write some fiction, but I wasn't sure if I had a penchant for that. But then you can't just go get a job writing fiction. It doesn't.
Nope.
It doesn't work that way.
I'm here to apply for the novelist job.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course I had music interspersed with that.
Right.
I wanted
you've
to do
always
that.
had to pass.
So I ended up doing concentrating on the music as like the passion part of it.
Right.
And the kind of thing, and also professional focus.
Right.
But then I was fortunate enough to get a job at a newspaper, where I actually did get to write stuff
and get paid
for it. So I was Investors Business Daily, which is a business newspaper.
Yes.
And they have a very good, editorial focus, unlike most newspapers.
Yeah.
And they're rational, they're free markets, they're pro capitalism. And I learned I learned about stocks and how to pick stocks and how to evaluate companies and things like that. So, and that was like 1992. So
wow,
30 some years later, I'm up on doing presentations here at Freedom Fest about stocks and the markets and a lot of the techniques that I learned back then.
Yeah,
I'm incorporating now, and also I'm here talking to people with philosophical ideas that I agree with, and we're promoting each other's ideas and we're promoting these things, and it's one of those things that's just like, it's actually, if you step back on it, both of our lives, it's pretty gratifying. We're able to do what we set out to do.
But not in the exact way that we set out. That's the thing, you go down, you think you're going down one path and the path winds, but that's great, and
it's never a path that very few people I think plot out a path and hit every marker along the way
I think
without a stumble.
That's really rare. Yeah.
It's really rare, and I think it's important in life to understand that.
Yeah,
because
and
life
not beat yourself up.
Yeah, and not beat yourself up, because there are a few people that do achieve things like that in terms of like what they set out to be a doctor, like your parent,
right?
And they became a doctor, and they were going to work in pediatrics or something like that, and they're a pediatrician,
right?
And they have a business, and they did that. But I can guarantee you that the way they pictured it out is not exactly what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
because life is not exactly how we picture it out. Because guess what? It changes every day. It changes, like everything is just the circumstances. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know who you're going to be.
And the world changes.
The world changes.
My dad,
exactly.
when he started out being a doctor, I don't think he could have conceptualized like the computers would ever be part of what he needed to do.
Yeah.
And he resisted, believe me. But he finally is like, okay, the government basically said you can't submit this stuff by hand. It has to be on the computer.
No more triplicate carbon paper.
Yeah, we're
forms.
doing away with that. So he had to learn.
Yeah.
So the world changes, your life changes, but so you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable.
I think one of the biggest things about that is, we've been around before the internet. So, and when we used to have to research stuff, we'd have to go to the library.
Yeah, you remember those days?
I'd love the library, but I'm glad I don't have to go every time I want to look up a stock price.
Right.
I don't have to wait till next morning's Wall Street Journal. I can just put it up on my phone, and see what's going on.
It's a different world. Yeah,
it's a different world, a lot of people, with all the silliness around social media, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it has its pernicious effects.
Oh, definitely.
And then you've got the politicians wanting to regulate it all, and people shutting down. But just think of how much more freedom we have with that.
Yeah.
How much more connections we can do. I mean, this conference like Freedom Fest would not be possible without social media and social connections and things like that, or at least it wouldn't be possible to this degree.
It wouldn't be the same thing at all. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I always like to kind of take a step back, like a Steven Pinker kind of step back.
Yeah.
And look at the world like how much better it is now.
Yeah. It's very easy to get caught up in all the things that are wrong, because there's plenty that's wrong, and lose track of all the ways that life has gotten better, because there's a lot of them.
It is. I mean, and there's health aspects of it. We've got better nutrition, better medicine, better things to do, like health-wise, more important. Now you're the guy like both of us like to stay fit. I know you like to play tennis, run, things like that.
Oh, not anymore. My joints are way past that now. I do still try to stay fit, but everything hurts if I try to do.
I understand. Trust me, I understand. After a few surgeries and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I still work out with weights all the time. Because that's a low impact thing. So
and you know how to do it proper form, so you don't hurt yourself.
Right, exactly. And we, on the website Way of the Renaissance Man, we have articles on health and fitness, things like that.
Yeah.
And that coming soon, there's going to be some more podcasts on that as well.
Oh, good.
So, I find it interesting because you and I kind of approach life the same way in terms of our intellectual, focus. Like we both hold reason as the absolute, like in our lives. No whim worship, no mysticism, nothing
none
crazy, right? None of that, right? None of that is allowed in our lives, right? So that means reason. And some people think that is somehow kind of stripped of passion or stripped of intensity, whatever. It couldn't be further from the truth.
No, exactly.
The reason and the passion and the art and the love of life, it kind of comes from that.
Yeah.
It comes from a rational enjoyment of existence.
Right.
Every day, not just one day, or not just one celebratory day, or not the day you got married, or the day you hit the lottery or some craziness like that.
Right.
It's every day you wake up and say, hey, am I happy?
Right.
It's a state of mind. It's like a state of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right?
Make this day a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. So how do you tell me how you go about not a day-to-day basis, but what's your outlook on that? I mean, what is your approach?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm as good at it as you think I am. I mean, I struggle. My big struggle is to kind of stay present, stay in the moment, because I tend to be a planner, and I get joy out of planning ahead. And so for me, a lot of the joy of making a movie is planning it all, and planning. This is going to be my
pre-production.
shot. The pre-production is, and the writing and all that. And then in the editing room, when you actually have to put it together, it's like, okay, now
that's where a little bit of the drudgery.
That's a little bit of the drudgery, but but still, I mean, I try to always keep a focus on, what are my goals, what is going to make me happy long range, and then but balance it also with, making sure I'm enjoying the present and not, money is always an issue. A lot of the money I make, I end up putting into my movies, but it's also important to do things for fun. So this last year, my partner and I went to Spain and Portugal, had a 2-week just blast of a vacation, and it was just wonderful. And it's important to do stuff like that. And you could say, well, that money you could have put towards retirement, and but we're saving towards retirement. You got to also enjoy your life.
You have to splurge a little bit.
You have to splurge every now and again, but it's not always clear what the right balance is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to find. I mean, I have this. You probably struggle with this issue as well as I do. Because we love our work, we tend to focus on that work as a primary, which is what we should do.
Right.
But sometimes I let other priorities slide a little bit, which I should not do.
But it's tough because there's only so many hours in the day, which we were talking about this earlier. One of the things that slides is sleep, because you got so much you're doing and you're enjoying doing. But then, if you don't get enough sleep, that can affect your health. And so you've got to got to try and keep all the balls in the air.
You got to pay the piper, as it were, if you dismiss on some of that stuff. I know it's part of the kind of struggle that's life.
Yeah. It is a constant balancing act.
I find sometimes I'm doing it really well. And sometimes I'm out of control.
And sometimes you're right. You're like, okay, I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm eating crappy. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So you at one point you were a vegetarian, weren't you?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Not
for
anymore,
many years. Yeah. No, not anymore. I sort of gradually. It was actually in Bermuda because. I was often traveling, and it just became really hard sometimes to find vegetarian stuff. And also, I was traveling on my boss's plane. And it's like, well, if he's serving, I didn't feel like I could ask for a special meal. It's like,
you don't want to reject a steak on a G5.
Right, exactly. It's like I'm not going to turn up my nose on this.
Yeah, exactly.
So I gradually started,
So now you're more omnivorous.
I am a full omnivore. I eat.
Okay. So if I invite you to go get a steak later on, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right. That
fine.
Sounds good. Yeah. I'm the same way. I never was a vegetarian, but I also like sweets a little too much than I should.
Yeah. No, I've got a real sweet tooth.
And I'm a wine freak too, so I got to be careful with that as well.
Yeah.
So that's nothing but sugary calories.
Yep.
Although it tastes great.
Delicious.
That's part of that splurging that we like to do. In life.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to, I think.
What's the most interesting thing you saw on that Spain-Portugal trip?
Oh God. I'd be hard pressed to say the one interesting thing, but we did go. There's this whole sort of, I guess, what you call a suburb of Lisbon called Sintra, and it goes back like 2,000 years. It's been the retreat for the royalty, and there's all these different eras of castles and mansions, and it's where all the elite would go to vacation, and so you can still walk around and tour. And so this one, I guess at the end of the 19th century, Portugal, like much of the world, had started to industrialize, and there were people making a lot of money. And so this guy, very, very rich, built this enormous mansion and created this parkland, acres and acres of just incredible grounds that he meticulously sculpted and created just these amazing
areas and things like that?
Some topiary, but also he's got this well that he dug into the ground that you walk down, you spiral all the way down, and then you get to the bottom and you look up and it's just this amazing
I think I may have
thing.
Seen a photograph
and
once.
it links into caves that you can then wander through and come out under a waterfall.
Did you do that?
Well, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So that was wonderful.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that's worth splurging on, because in life all we have is moments to splurge. Moments we have experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
exactly.
It.
And I know this is trendy and all, but I found it to be true in my life that paying money for experiences ends up being more rewarding than for things.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's important to have things. Obviously, you need things to survive. But, it's like, well, I guess I could have, bought a new car with that vacation money, but I would rather have those memories and drive my crappy old car for a few more years.
Exactly.
It's not that bad, but yeah.
Okay, so I want to know a couple of things.
Okay.
First off, people are interested in your films. How do they go about looking at them, seeing them? Where do we go?
Okay, so they're mostly all available on Amazon. And with Amazon, there's a trailer, so you can see if you would like it. The thing to know
No, you'll like them all, trust me. Anyway.
Okay, thank you. The thing to remember is that my professional name, my full legal name is Stewart Wade Margolis. My name as a writer-director, I just go with Stewart Wade.
Stewart Wade.
So look up Stewart and then Wade. They should all come up if you look them up on Amazon.
Okay. So do you have a website or anything like that at the moment?
It's so not current that I hesitate to give it out.
Do not go to Stewart Wade's website. Go to Amazon for Stewart Wade.
Yeah, just go to Amazon.
Wade, Stewart Wade.
Yeah, or you can look me up on Facebook too. But I just don't have the time to keep it updated.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to keep up with all the different social media areas.
Exactly.
And stuff like that.
And I don't even have an Instagram account. I'm practically a caveman.
You're a technological caveman. It must be that fact that we were, only 1 year old in 1985. So the final thing I'll ask you, because I very appreciate you talking to me today.
Sure.
Final thing I want you to tell me about a little bit about is your work at the OMRON Institute and what you're doing right now, what the Institute's focus is.
Okay.
And
well, I'm in the development department, which is a new position for me. I've been in the education department, I've been in the media department. Now I'm in development, which means it's largely donor relations, fundraising, and I've never done this kind of work before. But because I have this incredible background in 35 years in objectivism, I know pretty much all the key players. I've met most of our donors before, so I have a basis to talk to them, and I enjoy talking to them. We've got great donors. Some of them, at our conference, OCON, which was just a few weeks ago, I had lunch with donors that knew Ayn Rand. I had lunch with this one donor who worked for like 17 years with Alan Greenspan back when he was in the private sector. So these are like amazing people. They've got amazing stories. So
I love that type of thing because
Yeah.
there's so many people that still have connections, people that you wish you could have met.
Exactly.
Or picked their
Exactly.
brain on, and members of the old collective, as it were.
Yeah.
Like we used to call it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really,
fascinating.
it is fascinating to.
That must be extremely rewarding too.
Yeah.
to,
It is really cool
for you to
know
get that, and also for you to promote that to people.
Yeah.
Well, that's an excellent path. I'm glad you found yourself where you are right now.
Yeah.
Because you seem like a happy guy, and I've always known you to be a happy guy.
Yeah, mostly there's always things that could be better.
It's always life.
It's life. But no, mostly I am happy.
Well, we've been friends for like 35 years.
Yeah.
I hope we see another 35 together.
I hope we see more of each other.
Yes. Let's make
we're
that
both so
happen.
busy, it's hard. But yeah, let's make it happen.
Exactly. Okay, beautiful. Thank you
Great.
for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
Thank you.